Hello everybody and welcome back to another Oscar prediction video where today I will be taking a look at the category of Best Animated Feature. So I have made it no secret in the past that I love animated movies and this category is traditionally my favorite category every year. Maybe not so much this year just because the lineup that we've gotten is not a terribly strong one. And that's not the fault of Oscar voters because there was very little competition of what else conceivably could have gotten in. These 5 movies, I've watched them and it's a solid lineup. There's good movies here, but a lot of these films don't particularly scream winner, and that is why I feel very confident in my number one choice. I feel like in a different year, there could be room for an upset, but this year, everyone's basically defaulting to this one particular film. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we'll get into it. 5th most likely to win is Elio. What happened to Pixar? Because there used to be a time where Pixar was dominating this category and it would win basically either every year or every other year. Pixar has not won in 4 years, and they're not going to win for this one, so that's 5 years without an Oscar, and they haven't even really come close for their past 4 films, even though I think they're still producing quality work with stuff like Luca in Turning Red, Inside Out 2, and I would include Elio in that. I know that this is a flawed film, but as someone who is on the autistic spectrum, who grew up without a friend, I really wish that I had this movie in my life as a kid. I think this would have been really meaningful to me. And hopefully other people are discovering the film. I know it didn't do well at the box office. I know that its Disney Plus release was really poorly timed, but I sincerely hope that more people discover this film because of its Oscar nomination, because it really is a hidden gem. But because the film did not do well at the box office, it is perceived as a failure for Pixar. Honestly, I think the only reason it got the nomination is due to a lack of competition. There is not nearly enough support for this to win, although I'm very grateful that it's here. 4th most likely to win is Arco. So this is an indie film from France, I believe, that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival to relative acclaim. And I say relative acclaim because there was another French film that year, The Magnificent Life, that did not do as well as people were expecting. And Arco sort of became the default, oh, this is the better French animated movie of the year. And to be honest, I saw the movie, it's perfectly pleasant. It's very dreamlike, both in its animation and story, but also in its ability to fade from the memory very quickly after watching it. It's a solid film. It's a very pleasant film, but it's not a film that many people seem to be particularly that passionate about. And it's won a handful of critics' awards, but really not that many. And for this to be that indie underdog critics' favorite, we've seen narratives like that happen for other films, but there just isn't that much love for Arco. This is a movie that people like, but don't seem to love. 3rd most likely to win is Little Amelie, or the character of Rain. Or, if you're Snoop Dogg, Little Am I Lie. So that particular mispronunciation is the most notable thing about this film, which, to be perfectly honest, this film sits in a very similar place to me as Arco. I think I slightly prefer Little Amelie, but they're both kind of interchangeable. They're both really good, and solid animation, and they do. I think this one stays with me a little bit more than Arco, and I rank this one higher because this one is nominated for a BAFTA and Arco isn't. I'm not going to begrudge the nomination, but again, it just seems a little bit too slight. And there was a time early on when I thought maybe this could be a dark horse contender to win, but the passion just doesn't seem to be there from the critics. Honestly, I think any critics who want to go for the smaller, more intimate indie film is torn between this and Arco. There's not really a clear consensus on which of the two is the better film. So while I think these are both solid films and solid nominations, it just to me, I think it's very, very unlikely that either one could win. Second most likely to win is Zootopia 2. So this one is interesting. Walt Disney Animation Studios has been in a bit of a creative rut the past couple of years, with films like Strange World, Wish, and Moana 2. Zootopia 2 is the first film in a while to receive a good critical reception. And it's the first film in a while to get nominated for the Oscar. So that is a big, big deal. The movie also made quite a bit of money, which is not nothing, but it doesn't account for everything when it comes to winning an Oscar. Surprisingly, this movie has won the second most amount of critics' precursors. And to be fair, we have not gotten BAFTA yet at the time I'm recording this. And the movie that I currently have at number 1 is not nominated for BAFTA, so we don't know what's going to win. But at this point, I feel fairly confident that no matter what wins BAFTA, it's not going to change my prediction. Zootopia 2 is a good film. It's a solid film, and it has way more Wild Hops content than I was expecting. But to me, it doesn't quite live up to the quality of the first film, and sequels so rarely win in this category. They didn't give it to Spider-Verse, they didn't give it to How to Train Your Dragon 2, despite the fact that those two had quite a lot of precursors. Zootopia 2 really doesn't. The only Toy Story movies have won in this category. Those are the only sequels that have won. Zootopia 2 is solid, but it feels like it's in a very similar place that Inside Out 2 was last year. Good job getting the nomination, good job making that money, but you don't need to win. Number 1 most likely to win is K-pop Demon Hunters. So this movie has one of the most interesting underdog stories of the year, because it's a film that Sony Pictures, the company behind Mitchells vs. Machines and Spider-Verse, they made it. They decided not to release it in theaters, instead to sell it to Netflix because they didn't see a lot of money in this property. And to be fair, neither did Netflix. Netflix gave it a very quiet release. I didn't see any trailers or anything leading up to the film's release. It only spread afterwards through word of mouth. And initially, a lot of pundits were writing this movie off, presumably because of the title, but over the course of several months, it just grew and grew in popularity until it became really undeniable. I mean, this thing played for 1 week in theaters and sold out screens all over the world. The song was sung at the Thanksgiving Day Parade. The song was nominated for a Grammy. The song's topping the Billboard 100 for weeks on end. The movie becoming Netflix's most successful film ever. This is just such a huge, huge juggernaut of a film. And I gotta be honest, the last 2 years, with Wild Robot losing to Flea and Spider-Verse losing to Boy and the Heron, there was a part of me that was wondering, okay, is K-pop Demon Hunters the next frontrunner that goes on to lose the Oscar? But I gotta be honest, I don't think we're gonna see that pattern repeat a third time. And the main reason is the lack of competition. I mean, as stated before, Arco and Little Amelie cancel each other out, and Zootopia is solid, but it doesn't really need to win this category. K-pop Demon Hunters is huge, is beloved. This film is basically, arguably, the most culturally significant film released in 2025. And yet it was never even remotely in the conversation for a Best Picture nomination. What does an animated movie have to do these days? But yeah, I really feel like there's no competition, and people, even if critics don't absolutely love the movie, there really is nothing else to vote for. I'm sorry to the other movies nominated in this category, but it just seems inevitable that K-pop Demon Hunters is too big to fail, and it's going to take this Oscar. So thank you very much for watching, and tune in tomorrow when I will be taking a look at the category of Best Visual Effects. See you then.